What's up Raiders, Bionic here, welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. We're going to do a build video, we're going to do our trusty Armiger. I've never done a build video on the guy, and as you can see, I am using him to farm the Scarab King on floor 100 over and over and over again. But there are a couple of concerns that I have for you guys, that if you're going to do a similar build, you might have to take into consideration one or two things, alright? So the reason I say this is because obviously this is the build video that I showed you guys, which has that exact team. But I have another team that I used before, and that was the free-to-play auto 3-minute team. It was for the Scarab King, but on floor 30. He was a little bit slower, he had different stats, therefore you could have different stats on your champions. So if you are going to build a team that has an Armiger, you need to be careful on how you're going to tune him, so this will be kind of like dedicated to specifically that. All that being said, let's jump right in. Alright, so here we are with the two teams that I've used so far, and like I said, I've been using the one you just saw to farm him over and over again. Problem is that this is about a 20% success rate, if not less. It takes between 5, I've seen all the way up to 10 minutes if my cold heart dies, which I can almost 4-man. It's doable, it's very rare, but it works. So like, throughout a day, I hit just replay until I spend all of my keys, but it can still become quite tedious in real life time for me to get this completely done. Eventually I would like to have something that's a little bit more consistent, which is why I think this team, because it doesn't have any weak affinity, might actually be a valid endgame farming team for the Scarab King. And as you can see, there's no lure, there's no cold heart. You might think, well, you're going to deal less damage overall, perhaps, but if it's a consistent 6 minutes and it works 90% of the time, or let's say 7 minutes or whatever, instead of having 20% and then I end up wasting 5 and 10 minutes here and there, I think it might be best in the long run. I would definitely put Destroy Set on Armiger number 2, number 1, and the Rosin Scarhide, as these guys are our main damage dealers. You do have to get a shield set on one of your champions, which is Metal Shaper in my case, and you need a relatively fast Haiku tune, but you also need to tune these champions. And like I said, you gotta be careful. This right here, I can afford to be slower because I have a fast lure, and she has a much better turn meter control. If you go for a team that's a little bit slower like this, you're gonna have to be a lot faster. I say a lot, maybe not a whole lot, but when I did this, I remember that because the boss was at roughly 200 speed, I got away with being close to 200 speed on most of these champions as well. However, on this one right here, obviously I am much faster. So again, be careful on how you decide to tune your own Armiger. Okay, so let's go over his gear, and then I'll tell you guys sort of what you could improve. Okay, so for the weapon, we have obviously some speed. We also want some speed across the board. All right, I currently have mine at about 210 speed. Again, if you're going to do my first build, the one with the Rosin and the 2 Armigers, I'd say aim for like 240 plus, but then it's going to become pretty hard for you to have good offensive stats on top of good accuracy. All right, so the only way to do this, or that I found for this to be relatively easy on an account, was to use an accuracy chess piece. As you can see right here, it has decent stats. It's not perfect, but at least it's a 6-star legendary and a 6-star accuracy banner as well, which is very, very helpful for me to hit 346. And by the way, this boss at that floor has 330 resistance. And if you remember the chart that I showed about stacking accuracy over resistance, you don't need to go way over the top. An extra 10 or 15, tops 20 accuracy over his resistance is sufficient for the debuff, in this case, which is the turn meter reduction, to work. You also want 100% crit rate, so don't forget that. Therefore, it might be pretty hard for you to reach that with crit damage gloves on top of being very fast and having a lot of accuracy. So the only way I got that to work was with crit rate gloves. All right, so it's a big work in progress. Still, I managed to make it work with one Destroy Set. I do have a second one, which I talked about before, which is this Destroy Set right here, but I can afford to be at 70% crit rate because of the way the A3 from Cold Heart works, and that is with crit damage gloves. So eventually I might combine these two sets into one to make a better Armiger, but I also want to make a second one, and perhaps even that Rosin in a Destroy set for that first build that I talked about. Alright, so relatively straightforward, but again, maybe be a little bit cautious on how you speed tune your Armiger. Also, for the Masteries, one thing I will say, the War Master does not affect the Destroy set. So right now, I probably have to optimize this. I'm going to try Helm Smasher. Maybe some of you guys have already tried it. What do you think is better, to use the War Master for just more damage, but it doesn't reduce his max HP more? Perhaps the Helm Smasher is better in that sense, for you to reduce his max HP faster and start dealing more damage quicker. So again, let me know in the comments below, which one have you tried, all right? So that's going to be a quick overview of the current Armiger that I have built for specifically the Scarab King. I think he is pretty crucial to get this done. And quickly back to my two teams that I've tried so far. Which one do you guys think is going to be better in the long run with the right speed tuning? Again, this one I'm thinking your champions will need to be a lot faster, but you do have turn meter control A1, turn meter control 100% on the A3, and then you do have a 15% on the A3 of the Haikatune. It has worked. I think it could still work if we get the right speeds. I'm just not quite there yet with my destroy sets, or this one right here, which is, I'm going to say, a way to cheese it with the allure, but because of the weak affinity, it fails very often. So again, just trying to improve on this a little bit, and I want to know what you guys have come up with. All right, so finally, last thing I will show you guys is quickly the Great Hall. It's not a question trying to flex here, this guys, it's just to show to you, if you're going to compare my stats with your stats, you need to keep this in mind. It obviously affects my total stats quite a bit, and if yours is not as developed as my own, then you might run into some issues, waste a lot of silver, whatnot, trying to re-gear those champions. Anyway, all that being said, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.